we're here today in the record shop talking to my very dear friend Chantal Thompson, Larry Stafford, Spencer Evans. Sitting here talking to Alex Vizia. So we're here today in the record shop talking to my very dear friend Chantal Thompson, who is an excellent singer, local musician, and music buff. Thanks for coming today.
Yeah, thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
We have start off with, we'd like to ask, what was some of your earliest records?
Earliest records. Well, I grew up in a house with DJ Jack Thompson, so I was surrounded by thousands of records, and so it's hard to even say what my first records were. And actually I brought a little picture of me as a toddler getting out of the bathtub to flip a record over. So, you know, it was like, here's my soother and here's the vinyl kind of thing. And you know, I guess I heard a lot of Motown, and you know, my dad was doing dances, and he was also a radio DJ, spinning disc jockey in those days, and gentleman of the airwaves, and told stories and did interviews and that sort of thing. So yeah, Motown always, you know, loved the blues, and then, you know, also like kind of free stuff, like the Plastic Ono Band. I like Yoko Ono, you know, and I would be blasting, like, even her solo records, and my sister would hide in the closet. You know, I just wanted to. There's something about vinyl and expression and the vitality of sound waves that I feel like in the digital era. I'm sure there's like lots of different ways to hear it properly, but you know, like there's nothing like that vinyl. Like just feeling it on your body, right? And then I guess as I moved, and you know, and Police, you know, like reggae kind of influenced stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then later when I started studying drums, I realized that the drums were a big part of what was drawing me to music, like the vinyl that I'd select. So, you know, Stuart Copeland, like this kind of mixing of genres, you know.
Specials.
Yeah, you know, and then the Brazilian, when I moved out, I guess I was into the Jobim stuff, the Brazilian percussion and the kind of Brazilian blue notes, because I've always liked blues, and then yeah, from there, you know, like if lately, I guess I'm getting more into free jazz, and I think it has something to do with you know, you're developing your own expression, being fearless about it. It being sort of politically motivated. We're in a time right now that's very confining, and there's maybe a lot of censorship, and there's something about whenever you're in a time that's kind of oppressive, the art becomes, I think, very free and abstract as a result, right? It's like a response. Mm-hmm. So I've been collecting more free jazz, you know.
Yeah. Are you a fan of Alice Coltrane?
Oh yeah. So yeah. And actually, my latest recording, I had her in mind in terms of like trying to, I think earlier we were talking about this idea of a song never ending. And, you know, we'll talk about the recording in a minute, but when the guys, some of them are in Toronto, and they said, okay, so what are you going for? Because we couldn't do a lot of rehearsals during the lockdown, right? And I said, okay, imagine that it's the sound of infinity, because we've been so and able to express ourselves. I just want you to be able to like lock into something that you need to express. Just let it all go, and we're gonna let it go for as long as possible. Now I've got all this material. I'm like, oh, how do I edit this? But the vibration that I wanted is there, and so Alice Coltrane, I think, embodies that.
Yeah,
you know?
I believe so too.
Yeah, and she's finally getting her due now.
Long overdue.
You know, it's like Yoko Ono. Like, it's like you're married to these giants, and you know, and I brought Coltrane, I love Supreme, you know, I love Coltrane and everything, but you're kind of in the shadow, and then people kind of there's a little bit of a hate on for you or something, as if
you're the first person I've heard that say, "I really like Yoko Ono."
Right.
I've heard those words before.
Oh my
actually.
God! Sometimes those are fighting words when I'm, at a dinner party, because a lot of the Beatles fans, there's still this like weird thing about.
She
well,
broke up the Beatles.
Yeah, or he wanted to please his lady. And I mean, if you look at footage of Lennon, he doesn't need to please his, like he really respects Yoko, and he got so much from her. Like, she was an incredible artist before she met him. So I'm surprised that people don't dig past. I mean, now there's like so much information on this stuff. It's easy to find out what the story is.
And they put out the new movie with the Let It Be movie. And
Yeah.
looks like they were really enjoying themselves through that process of making music in a freer atmosphere that was less constricting.
Sure. And we have all these beautiful pieces like Imagine and everything like that really made a difference, like made people think politically, and so
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like the Beatles, of course, amazing music, but music goes on and music evolves, and it's not a static thing.
Yeah. Well, even look at what Paul's been doing, he's keeping his career going for the last 40 years.
Yeah. Great composer.
So you've mentioned Yoko. Were there other influences early on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess vocally, because I think I kind of have a different, instrumentally and vocally, and in jazz these things should be mixed, and sometimes they are, but often they're, depending on what company you're in, people see these things as being different. I like to integrate my vocals into the music and feel like another instrument. But if I was just to look at vocals, people like Aretha Franklin and Etta James, and and again, like my memory, like I liked Hard, and but I like Otis Redding and Jimi Hendrix, and I guess it's like a lot of soul blues oriented, Gil Scott Heron, people who are poets, Marianne Faithfull. Like she hasn't really gotten her due either, because she's still producing. Somebody lent me a couple of her latest records. Amazing. She's still writing great songs,
Yeah, she got overshadowed early on, and she's really never had a commercial album.
Yeah. Which is so strange, because when you go back and listen to, Dangerous Acquaintances and these, Broken English, it's like, okay, this is not only recorded really well, stunningly, and like amazing performances from the musicians, but also the songwriting is really intense, really good. Like, what was it? Like, people were like scared of her, and then she has this kind of reputation of, she got into drugs, and it's a tragedy and a poor. Everybody was doing that. Like, why are they picking on her?
Because she's a woman. Have you ever seen the performance video of her performing in a church in New York City? It's a concert performance.
No.
It's called, I forget what it's called now. It's a beautiful show, though. And it's from back in the 90s. It's a really great show. You should check it out.
Yeah.
I have it on VHS, but I've never seen the DVD.
I got some stuff on VHS, too. You got to keep that equipment around, I guess.
Yeah.
Shaka Khan and...
Shaka Khan, you used to play some of her stuff in your old band Joy. It was a band I used to go see back when I first moved to Kingston in 1991. The Toucan.
With Joe and...
With Joe and Chris, and originally it was Grant.
Jason and Grant, and Spencer was in it.
Spencer.
And, Dave Scowcroft. And we went to Russia. There's a really funny documentary.
I met Sergei. I've been friends with Sergei over the years.
Yeah.
He really was enamored with the band.
He really was. He took us to his home. He was Russian, or he is Russian. In '92, when we were lining up for bread, it was a really rough time. There was, it was after Perestroika. Politically, they were switching over to some kind of capitalist model, and there was a lot of conflict, and there were they couldn't get their supplies, so we were like lining up with for bread, food, with everybody else, and we were there for about 5 weeks, I think. And we were touring. We went to some of the bigger cities, but we also went to the smaller villages, and we were on these Russian trains with punk groups, but we were like an R&B band. And some of these people had never seen foreigners before, and they came to kind of look at our shoes and everything, and then they were like, what is this music? So yeah, it was really intense and really amazing time to be there.
So you took the music of your band Joy, which was really an R&B style group, and brought it to smaller villages.
Smaller villages, yeah. People liked it, and they were, dancing. I think still at that point, people weren't necessarily allowed to dance so much in public. In the big, like we played these arenas, 1,000 people there or more, and they were kind of just like this. They weren't really allowed to move. But then we also played these underground bars where people were dancing. So, and they were kind of run by militia and stuff.
Gangsters.
Yeah. When I look back, I'm thinking, we probably would never do something like that today, But we survived and we made it back
at the right time.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds incredible. So you haven't your R&B band, but I know you're heavily into jazz music, and you've done a lot of jazz since then.
Yeah, something started happening with playing the blues and R&B, and then when I started writing my own songs, the phrasing was kind of longer and more, and I was into world music. I was into like Hindi music, and
so R&B is a little confining, really.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, well, how can you bring these things together? Jazz covers everything, because I was also like an artist. I wanted to experiment with things. I had kind of a punk side, and how do you blend all of these things together? And jazz, also, like some of the lyrics I was writing, maybe a little bit complicated. How do you represent that musically? These kind of contrasting ideas. So then I was moving more towards jazz, and then I just always had a swing feel, and and I love black music.
Well, I remember you moved to New York City at one time.
Yeah.
And there was a band, I believe, were they based out of New York? Directions?
Directions, actually, we were based out of Toronto.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was Benji Prosen and Jason Kanemi and Wayne Ogilvy and.
My mistake.
Oh no, that's okay. But we toured around a bit. Like we played the Jazz Cafe in London, England, sold out show, and we were like pick of the night in the London Time Out. And because we had this like DJs were like remixing our stuff. We had a kind of a fusiony jazz sound. It was sort of like Bitches Brew, and so it was really kind of easy to remix. And there was this thing happening. It's like the late '90s new jazz, they called it. So it was all those remix things were coming out. So we were kind of at the head of that, and Toronto really embraced us. Like we, so we had a label for a while, and we put limited edition vinyl out, like in Japan and places like that. So it was after that I went to New York, and because we were doing the Montreal Jazz Festival, all these jazz festivals, but I felt like I never studied music. So I thought, okay, if I want to expand my vocabulary and my understanding, like playing with other people, I'm going to need to get some foundational.
So you went to school in New York?
Not school, but I auditioned for workshops with like really well-known jazz vocal teachers like Mark Murphy, who used to just win Downbeat magazine best vocalist every year, just like as a joke, because anyway, he's just like this intense guy. I got to study with him at the end of his final years, and he played with Bill Evans and all these people, and he was just like this amazing storyteller within the music and swing, just like so hard swinging, like Ella, but more experimental, like